On to the latest issue with the transgender topic, and because it affects me through my ex-wife and my children, I keep up with this. I try to figure this out. I give it a lot of thought and a lot of consideration. So my ex-wife always was on the gender topic that, men have oppressed women, men are the patriarchy, women are subjugated all over the world to men, and women need to push back. So that's not new. I went through that for 18 years. Mostly the last 10 of 18 years of marriage, but, there's always like, oh, I'm a tomboy, I don't fit in with girls, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that, and, so I thought I understood the inspiration for where my kids are protesting about gender. To me, it seemed pretty obvious that they believe gender is a social construct. The stuff we hear, in the media and the woke culture, the gender studies students and stuff, that gender is a social construct and that men or women are basically equal. And that there's very few differences other than what society says, this make-believe system of gender. I figured they were protesting. I didn't know. Maybe I'm wrong still. Maybe I'm not getting the full story. I've been offering to go to counseling with them about this so I can figure it out, but apparently they believe gender is changeable and that you can be no gender at all. And that they go by, these new pronouns, these like they, them pronouns. Honestly, I congratulated them recently in a video I made, for resisting the system, for doing what they think is right, for pouring their hearts into the cause to, resist these gender norms that society has created. I don't agree. I believe gender, I believe gender roles exist with or without society. We go back to like the cavemen, hunters and gatherers. There was roles then. There was gender roles then too. With or without society. At least from the science I've researched. So I don't agree with them, but if they really think that society, is a patriarchy that needs to be, dismantled and that gender doesn't really exist aside from social constructs and that women are truly subjugated and that are truly oppressed and truly downtrodden because of men, well then I get it. I agree. They should fight and resist and stand up for what they believe in, right? There's no doubt. I agree with that. And I was very punk rock when I was a kid. I protested the system I grew up in, and in fact stood up for the gays and lesbian community. I pushed back against the Mormons, the culture I grew up in, when they tried to forbid gay marriage in California through Proposition 8. And I admonished them back in 2008 about that. I totally disagree with their stance on that. Even though that's the culture I grew up in, I made public videos that are still public today, admonishing them for picking on people with a different lifestyle than them because they were just recently in history picked on for their polygamy and their sexual habits. So I was just like, let the gays have it. You had your fight and, you fought hard and you tried to protect your liberty to practice polygamy, as far as Mormons are concerned. Let these gays have their sexual persuasion and their marriage and all that without, punishing them or, trying to restrict their liberty and freedom. And that was, my message for many years to the Mormons, long before most of my kids were ever born. I only had one kid at that time, and she was like 4 or 5 at the time. Yeah, she was 4, because she was born in 2004. That happened in 2008. So my oldest was 4 when I was standing up for the gays, lesbians, and bis. Trans wasn't even really a thing back then. And now all of a sudden I've got to admit that gender is changeable and that we can go by new pronouns and, that gender is a social construct. and that not calling these people their new pronouns is going to set them into a tailspin emotionally. Well, why wasn't this an issue 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 200 years ago? Why weren't people, expressing this mental gender persuasion thing that has no bearing on its physical side? It's just all a mental thing. Why wasn't this such an issue 10 years ago? And now all of a sudden, we're going to hurt people's feelings enough to crush them if we don't go by these new pronouns that just came out. Like maybe during the pandemic, according to Jeffree Star, just recently these new pronouns came out. But if we don't use them now, then we're insulting people. These didn't even exist 10 years ago. Good Lord. And you can't change your gender. You're either XX or you're XY. I won't be shunned and canceled to a point where I just agree with people. Like, because I disagree ideologically, biologically, that you cannot change your gender. Well, now that means that I'm against my this, and that. My friend, my family, my kid, whatever, that I'm against them if I don't agree with them. That's not how this works. You can disagree and still respect and love a person. You don't need to agree with their ideology to respect and love them. That's something I want to teach my kids. Don't cave into peer pressure. If someone says they're going to cancel you unless you believe the way they believe, tell them to fuck off. Please, don't cave into peer pressure. I won't do it, and I'm setting an example. So please don't do it. If you're my child and you're watching this, please resist peer pressure, just like I'm doing with this they-them thing. Okay? Thank you.